Hello.
Hello.
Buenos dias.
Hmm.
All right. Zooming in on desires today. And first, just starting, one, recognizing the power in expressing desires. It seems so simple, but actually just like having a moment where I express what I want.
Like understanding, actually having the awareness of what my desires are is a huge and powerful step.
Yeah, simple example. I find myself washing the dishes quite often. And that's just something I notice. I notice the dishes, I clean the dishes. It's like part of my morning routine. And I also notice sometimes a desire come up, like sometimes I'd like for Lavina to wash the dishes. I notice if I don't express that desire, resentment will build up in me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have this opportunity to express the desire. And so just starting from that place, then how is the desire expressed? That's something that's been coming up for us.
Right.
And last night we had this idea like, yeah, the desire can be expressed as an invitation.
Yeah.
Rather than a command.
Right.
And how the desire is expressed can actually shed light on some deeper psychological dynamics. So if I express this desire from this place of command, upset, annoyance, what does that say about how I'm feeling about this desire? It could mean that I let it sit there for a long time and it got repressed and now I feel resentment. It could also relate to like feeling as though I give more energy to our relationship.
Yeah. I just want to speak to this idea of a desire being expressed as an invitation as opposed to a command, and how valuable that is and how it's received, the difference in how it's actually received. Because if your desire is for me to do more dishes, which this is something that came up, and it's expressed as an invitation, there's greater space for me to see, oh, okay, yeah, let me take a step toward you in that way. Like, this is an invitation. I want to meet you here. I'm happy to do the dishes and be more mindful of them piling up or however it flows. And I actually just did the dishes this morning. So, so the invitation, I think, really creates this spaciousness for the one who's being invited to make their own decision, right? Like, this is my sovereign decision. It's not like I have to do this. Because if it's a command, then that can also trigger things that are deeper underlying as well.
Yeah, and we'll both speak to some, Lavina says core wounds, which I guess like could be thought of as that, like something happened in my past that now like I feel this sensitivity about it. It seems like strong language, but I'm working with it. And so we both realize these like different core wounds, different experiential responses to these desire dynamics. And so, yeah, like Lavina said, she has started washing the dishes. And it's a beautiful thing when a couple can align their desires. Like, yeah, we both agree, like, it'd feel good to share the dishwashing. So, awesome. Another example, we wake up in the morning and we say, hey, let's meet in the kitchen in 40 minutes to make hot drinks. So I go down to the kitchen, Lavina stays up here in the bedroom, we're in our morning flow. I start to notice the time going by and I think to myself, is Lavina going to come? Is Lavina going to come? Eventually she came and it was later than we said, and so we had a conversation about it. Hey, Lavina, I'm feeling as though you're not living up to your word. I feel like I can't trust you. Where's the communication? And so that small example, which we both probably agree on, like, yeah, it's great to like communicate and live up to our word. And there's other parts to this
little
too.
Pieces, subtleties that are playing into the why behind the like little tension that could have been created from that moment, from that little hiccup.
Yes. The tension being, here's this shared desire, but then we also have our own individual desires that are pulling at each other.
Right.
And so I can just speak from my perspective. What I noticed coming up was, yes, this desire like, hey, can we have clear communication so that I can trust that you will live up to what you're saying? And two, wow, I am also seeing how I got upset because I'm feeling like I'm wanting you more than you're wanting me. I'm sitting here in the kitchen waiting for you, and I'm like wanting you to come to me, and I feel like you're not coming, and it is actually triggering these thoughts of like, I'm not as wanted. You're not wanting me as much. You don't want to spend as much time with me.
Right. And from my perspective, I'm like, oh, I'm in my flow and I kind of just want to stay in this space. I'm going to go to the kitchen. It's all going to be in fine time. I don't want to keep a watchful eye on my clock, like minute to minute. I came down, I think it was maybe 10, 15 minutes later than we had agreed upon. And for
20 minutes for the record.
It felt like 5. So there's the difference in the perspective. And for me, I'm like, I just want to be in my flow. Everything's going to work itself out. And I don't want to be in trouble for following what feels good for me.
Yeah. Yes.
And be in trouble. That's the point. Like, that's the key element. This is something that's been coming up for me. This feeling of like, oh, are you mad at me? Am I going to be in trouble for this?
Right.
Like, and feeling like I'm being made to feel wrong. Like, you did this bad, you did this wrong. And I'm like, I just want to do what I want to do. So there's something underlying this here. And this is what's been showing up for both of us. For me, feeling like I'm in trouble, and for you, feeling this unwanted.
Or like, I'm giving more effort and you're not meeting me where I'm trying to put out. And so, yeah, just coming back to this idea of desire as an invitation. If I'm expressing my desire as an invitation, then it's coming from this secure, grounded place. And I notice my communication. I notice when I say things that like are meant to be a little poke. Like, I feel like I can't trust you. I can't trust your word. Like, wow, really, Harry? Like, because Lavina didn't show up to the kitchen on time, I feel like I can't trust your word. Yeah, there's something deeper there. I'm like
so
bringing
good.
up this dramatic experience, and it's not that dramatic. And granted, it happened a couple times all close together, where like we said we were going to meet somewhere and then the timing was off. But even still, I have to be honest with myself. This isn't just about like, hey, can we honor our word? And it's simple as that. It's like, yeah, I feel like I'm giving more effort to this and you're not meeting me. And so then, okay, now we've reached another phase of the desire communication, which is this true? Is it true that I'm actually giving more effort to meet you and you're not meeting me as much? And then we can look at like, okay, what's the experience? Like, so to offer another example, making love. I wake up in the morning, I'm feeling turned on and aroused, and I want to go for it. I initiate, I make the move. Lavina's sleeping.
It's 5:30 a.m.
And so I get the message, Lavina is not as aroused as I am. And it could be as simple as like a kiss on the head and I start my morning. Rather, what has happened is I get up out of bed, feeling unwanted without maybe even consciously knowing it. And then the morning starts with this sense of disconnect.
Right. And it's felt. These are subtle energies, but because we are in partnership, we're in relationship, we're sharing energetic, emotional space. I wake up, I can feel this subtle tension, and then my story comes up. Oh, am I in trouble? Like, did I do something wrong? Is he disappointed with me? Is he upset with me? And now how do we interact when we come together? It's like, oh, hi, good morning, and we're hugging, and there's this something underneath the surface.
Yeah, and sex dynamics can really illuminate these core wounds.
Absolutely.
Like, the desire for sex is always an invitation. That's like a really clear one to not be a command.
Yes.
And so to come back to this idea of like me feeling unwanted, and then I can express a desire like, babe, I want to make love in the morning. That's like a pretty grounded, honest, authentic desire.
Yeah.
But if I express it like, like coming from this place of upset energy, of like resentment, like you never want me in the morning, I feel unwanted by you. So then, like we said, it's this opportunity to actually look at reality and be like, have I been rejecting you? Like, has our sexual connection been off lately?
Right.
And then we both can honestly look back on, okay, what has been
What is
happening?
the shared reality here? Like, what's actually been happening? What is through my lens? What is through your lens? And how do these realities these perceptions actually meet? Like, what are the things that happen? Because in my perspective, I'm like, we've been having beautiful sex, we've been coming together and all of this, and this feeling that I don't want you makes me feel like I'm in trouble, which makes me feel like there's a pressure to meet some kind of needs or desires that I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? And there's already resistance there. Whereas when it shifted last night and you just laid it out as like, you know what, it would be nice to be able to make love in the morning. And I can feel into that. Okay, let me open myself up to that a little bit more, because maybe there are days that I want to sleep, and maybe there are days that I can open myself to meet your desires, that we can come together in that place, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so
because it's an invitation.
When we looked back at it, it was like, yeah, I guess we actually have been like pretty connected sexually. So it does reveal for me, like, I got some stuff to look at here. I got some awareness to bring to my experience of feeling rejected. And so like one morning where Lavina doesn't meet my desire, it spirals into this like insecurity. Yeah, that is something for me to look at. And we can go back and like, this might be another episode, but like finding the memories to which these are rooted and linked.
Right.
And also it just starts with like having the awareness of this experience unfolding.
Yeah.
And so having that awareness of seeing my insecurity then empowers me to speak from a place of like grounded authenticity of like, this is my desire.
Yeah.
Rather than saying this is how you are, this is how it is. It's just like, this is my desire.
Right.
And then from that, I'm also honoring my partner, and like, she doesn't feel, Lavina, you don't feel in trouble, monitored, pressured. Important for washing dishes, definitely. Really important for sex.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And all of the places that it ripples out. And so there are really valuable things for both of us to look at. It's like, where does this come from, this feeling of being unwanted, and where does this feeling of being in trouble or that I'm disappointing people come from? You know, because it's most likely an inner child wound, some story that we learned this way, and it's been an unconscious pattern. So through our relationship, we're able to reflect these things to one another so that we can shine a light on these places within ourselves that have been playing out in an unconscious way. So it's like, oh, boom, now there's a light switch that can go off. Anytime these subtleties of feeling unwanted, anytime I start to feel energies of that I'm in trouble or that I'm being monitored or like, you know, parented, then boom, a light switch can go off. Ooh, what's coming up here? Can we talk about it? Or how can we dance with this, move with this in a way that is going to support our evolution and expansion of our awareness?
Beautifully said. Yeah, beautifully said. These moments of tension, as we say, are always opportunities to reflect and look within.
Yes. And that's the power of this, I know you have resistance to this word, but a conscious relationship, an intentional relationship. Like, we're in this so that we can see the shit beneath the surface. Like, it's not always fun, but it's always so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ultimately it is fun.
Yeah.
I love uncovering the shadows. It's like, oh my gosh, another part of myself that I get to welcome home.
Yeah. And maybe for next time we'll talk about when we've reached a checkpoint. Like, this is good. We don't need to keep processing this anymore.
Yes. There can become an addiction to processing. So save that for another one.
Love you, babe.
Love you.